Let's jump right into today's explainer, because this one, it's deeply personal and just absolutely powerful. We're looking at the story of a young woman who started from literal zero. I mean, she grew up in a single-parent household where every single bill felt like a small war. But by her late 20s, she had quietly built a seven-figure net worth. Now you might be wondering, is this another one of those overnight success, get-rich-quick stories? No way. Absolutely not. This is a story about fighting intense, relentless cultural pressure. It's about looking around at a world completely obsessed with keeping up with the Joneses and making the radical decision to step off that treadmill entirely.
Right off the bat, I want you to really absorb this mindset. I would rather look average and be financially unstoppable than look impressive and be one emergency away from collapse. Just think about the sheer power in that statement. In a culture that literally demands we broadcast our success 24/7, choosing to look average is practically an act of rebellion. But getting to this hardened, bulletproof mindset, man, it wasn't easy. It required breaking through incredible societal noise and enduring a period of extreme sacrifice. To understand how she built this impenetrable financial armor, we've got to go back to the very beginning.
Section 1. The hardest 10,000. Building the foundation. Okay, let's dive into this. Because the foundation for real generational wealth, well, it's rarely glamorous. In fact, it's usually built through unseen, deeply unglamorous sacrifices that most people simply aren't willing to make.
We have to anchor this narrative on one brutal milestone, the first $10,000. She noted that scraping together this first 10K took nearly 2 agonizing years. And honestly, it felt absolutely brutal the entire time. She was working a day job that barely covered her basic living expenses, which meant she had to pick up extra freelance work every single weekend. She was saying no to almost everything her friends were doing. There were nights she literally cried from exhaustion. Not necessarily because the work itself was too hard, but because she felt like she was sacrificing the best years of her 20s for a number in her bank account that frankly still felt embarrassingly small.
And this brilliantly illustrates the massive mental toll of that journey. Picture what she was surrounded by. Peers her exact same age, constantly posting vacation photos, sharing flashy unboxing videos, and seemingly living the absolute dream. The social pressure was suffocating. Meanwhile, her reality, eating rice and beans and giving up her weekends to just grind out more freelance work. She was watching coworkers buy things she genuinely could not afford. It creates this powerful dissonance, right? You start to ask yourself, am I doing something wrong? Why does everyone else have it so easy? But as she discovered, proving to yourself that you can follow through on a promise to your future self becomes the unshakable foundation for literally everything that comes next.
Section 2. The trap of looking rich. Normalizing debt. This brings us to the core conflict of our story today.
While she was quietly, painfully scraping together those first dollars, she noticed something terrifying happening to almost everyone around her. They were falling into a trap. She watched her peers fund the appearance of wealth with quiet, suffocating debt. And you know, our culture normalizes this so well that people don't even notice the trap snapping shut. People were financing cars they couldn't actually afford just to look successful sitting at red lights. They were buying designer bags and logo-covered jackets to feel like they had made it, all while hiding the massive credit card debt funding those purchases in the background. They were signing mortgages that stretched their monthly incomes completely to the breaking point. And look, none of this made them bad people. It just made them normal. Our culture is literally designed to convince you that spending is the finish line of success rather than the starting line of immense financial stress.
Just picture how this societal trap plays out with housing. People kept asking her, why don't you buy a massive house now that you have some money? But imagine signing a mortgage that eats up 60% of your income, leaving just 40% for literally everything else. Groceries, emergencies, just living life. When your finances look like that, you aren't wealthy. You're incredibly fragile. You are exactly one job loss or one medical emergency away from a complete financial disaster. And for what? An address that looks impressive to outsiders?
So the crucial point is how we actually define these traditional markers of success. From her perspective, a heavily financed house isn't an asset at all. It is, in her own words, a leash with a nice paint job. A 6-year car payment isn't success. It's a monthly reminder of a decision you made to impress people who honestly weren't even paying attention to you in the first place. Owning these things stopped being her goal because she saw the hidden chains attached to them.
Section 3. Saying no to normal. Active rebellion. Resisting this stuff is hard work.
Because resisting this deeply ingrained cultural norm, it requires active rebellion. It means engaging in hidden work and enduring extreme isolation to fight off what we call lifestyle creep. Behind every single dollar she saved was a version of her that absolutely no one saw. This was her reality for years, waking up incredibly early to work before her regular day job even started, spending her nights self-teaching new skills because, well, she couldn't afford to pay someone else to teach her, saying yes to extra weekend freelance projects when she was already bone-tired. There was no secret inheritance waiting for her. Actually, scratch that, there was no viral TikTok moment to suddenly make her rich either. There were just months and then years of unglamorous, exhausting effort that nobody was clapping for.
It all boils down to this one fundamental truth. Consistency in the background builds wealth, not a single lucky break. We are so utterly obsessed with overnight success stories that we ignore the actual mechanics of financial security. It's the boring, unglamorous, repeated decisions made quietly in the background that actually move the needle.
Section 4. Quiet wealth versus loud debt, the shift in power. Eventually, guys, the math starts to work in your favor. Let's move to MC how this builds, because her psychological evolution is just incredible. It moves from absolute exhaustion to total calm. In her early 20s, it was all sacrifice. 2 years in, she hit that brutal first $10,000, which served as her proof of concept. But then, something magical shifted around the $100,000 mark. Suddenly, the sacrifice stopped feeling like a punishment and started feeling like power. And as that compounded into 7 figures, it evolved into total, unshakable calm. You stop flinching when your car gets run at the store. You stop comparing yourself to people who look rich but are secretly drowning in debt. This profound realization hit her on just some random Tuesday when she realized she had a fully funded 6-month emergency fund. If she got fired that very day, she'd be fine. If a bad relationship needed to end, she wouldn't be financially trapped. She realized every dollar I saved was quietly buying back pieces of my own future. That trade-off, her future freedom in exchange for skipping the designer jacket today, felt infinitely more valuable than anything sitting in a driveway. This completely redefines what it means to actually be wealthy. Financial freedom is not about a private jet. It's not about a sprawling mansion. It is simply being able to make a hard decision without your bank account making it for you first. It's the quiet power to say no to a toxic boss, no to a draining relationship, and no to trading away years of your life just to maintain appearances. Rule 1. The ultimate rule. Winning the long game. So how do you actually guarantee you reach this state of freedom?
Now, what's really interesting here is how simple this rule is in theory, yet how incredibly rare it is to see in practice. It's the absolute refusal to let your spending grow at the same speed as your income. Notice how, when she got a raise, almost everyone around her immediately upgraded their lifestyle to match it. But her rule was completely different. Only a very small sliver of that new income went to a lifestyle upgrade. The vast majority went straight into savings. It was never about how much money she made compared to her peers. A lot of them earned similar amounts. It was about how much she refused to let walk right back out the door.
Now we have to acknowledge the painful part of this journey, that honestly most people just never admit. It can be incredibly lonely. Friends might drift away because you can't join their expensive outings. Your own family might question why you're being so tight with money you worked so hard for. Delaying gratification in a world that demands instant pleasure, it brings a very strange, heavy social pressure. You will doubt yourself. But you survive it by constantly picturing your future self in 5 years and asking if she will thank you or resent you for the choice you're making today. Because those tiny, boring, repeated choices, they will eventually snowball into an avalanche of freedom. If you're standing at the very beginning of this journey, feeling completely overwhelmed, just remember that every single 7-figure net worth started with an amount that felt embarrassingly small. So I want to leave you with a provocative question to carry with you. When that very next paycheck hits your bank account, will you use it to build an appearance, or will you use it to buy back your future? Start with whatever you can this week, protect it fiercely, and let consistency do the heavy lifting. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and we'll see you next time.